what I would like to tell you now is actually to make you familiar, to inform you about public consultation on implementing measures. I would, in a way, expect that many of you, if not a majority, are already familiar with the concept paper on implementing measures for the performance of pharmacovigilance activities, which has been published by the Commission on the Commission website on 8 September this year. Next slide, please. Just to remind the highest level background of new pharmacovigilance legislation as a strategy to better protect public health by strengthening and rationalizing EU pharmacovigilance. We have got a legislative package consisting of the amending regulation, amending directive, and both of them give the task to the Commission to prepare implementing measures in several areas. Next slide, please. These areas for implementing measures do cover content and maintenance of the pharmacovigilance system master file kept by the marketing authorization holder, minimum requirements for the quality system for the performance of pharmacovigilance activities, the use of internationally agreed terminology, formats, and standards for the performance of pharmacovigilance activities. Next slide, please. Minimum requirements for the monitoring of data in the UDRA vigilance database to determine whether there are new risks or whether risks have changed, the format and content of the electronic transmission of suspected adverse reactions by member states and the marketing authorization holder, the format and content of electronic periodic safety update reports and risk management plans, and the format of protocols, abstracts, and final study reports for the post-authorization safety studies. In general, implementing measures should ensure uniform implementation of the pharmacovigilance legislation in the all member states across the whole regulatory system with all participants. You see that within these areas we do have more or less areas which need to be developed more in detail, like quality systems for performance of pharmacovigilance activities or monitoring of data in the UDRA vigilance. And then we have areas, if not to say provisions, which are more or less format and content oriented, so that this is reflected in the concept paper in its structure. We will see later. Next slide, please. So the goal of implementing measures would be to harmonize the performance of the new pharmacovigilance activities, supplement essential details of the new pharmacovigilance system, providing technical details that have to be observed by marketing authorization holders, national competent authorities, and the agency in the daily practice of applying the new provisions. In principle, this is another opportunity, implementing measures are another opportunity to fix in a way still strongly legally binding requirement which the system would or has identified in once thinking about implementation of the adopted legislation. And of course, what we have to bear in mind is balance between safeguarding of public health and general internal market requirements. Next slide, please. With the public consultation, the European Commission intends to describe the scope and content of the implementing measures. As I've already said, it is a concept paper. This concept paper has been prepared on the base of technical contributions prepared by the agency and member states under the coordination of the agency and governing structure, for which the Commission is grateful. But I want to say that this is the basis for implementing measures. We now have the public consultation. We shall receive the comments, contributions based on the concept paper, and then the dialogue shall continue. basically, one, we have ready our commission's advanced draft or draft ready, finalized position. The commission shall discuss with the member states in the standing committee. Maybe this is the opportunity to tell you, though we have not yet sent for technical reasons official invitation yet, but there shall be a stakeholders meeting on implementing measures in Brussels on 22nd November. I believe that the invitations and announcements shall follow very quickly in next day. Based on this concept paper, the Commission seeks views and feedback from stakeholders on those issues described and questions raised. Next slide, please. The period of consultation ends on 7 November 2011, so you see the stakeholders meeting will take place approximately 2 weeks after the end of the consultation. All citizens and organizations are welcome to contribute. Received contributions will be published on the internet. And next slide, please. And now I would like only to outline the contents of the concept paper in sense of headings, which in fact more or less do match the area for implementing measures which I have mentioned. Just you will see now in 2 slides where in which areas the concept paper opts for text where some provisions are proposed which have been perceived necessary, and then where we have documents more or less of format and content structure which are presented in the form of annexes. So we have in the document chapter on pharmacovigilance system master file, quality system for all different participants in the system, signal detection and risk identification, use of terminology, and transmission and submission requirements. Next slide, please. And then those annexes already mentioned would do cover electronic submissions of suspected adverse reactions, risk management plans, electronic periodic safety update reports, and protocol abstracts, and final study reports for the post-authorization safety studies. Next slide, please. What you would find in the concept paper, we have specified for each area certain questions. All across the document you would find here and then general questions. Do you agree with this part of the document as it is, or would you have any additional comments? All stakeholders who would send us comments and contributions are particularly welcome to answer or to react to these questions raised, but of course all other comments and contributions and proposals are welcome. So regarding, just to give you the flavor of these questions, we are, for example, asking on pharmacovigilance master file, there is a description of processes and pharmacovigilance tasks to be covered, whether you would see a need to address or to add additional processes or pharmacovigilance tasks. Then there is the question, we know what was actually the aim of introduction of pharmacovigilance master file, that it was in one sense concentration of information in one global document, on the other hand simplification, facilitation of maintenance by uncoupling it from the marketing authorization. Then the question is, if changes to the content, how to address it, any variation obligations, any notifications, if yes, how to do it, and so on. Next slide, please. Then there is a part of the chapter which addresses delegation. There are two provisions, no, two paragraphs, I would say. Then the question is, are you happy with the contents, or would you like to, would you think something important should be introduced else? Would the copy of the audit report be should be required? Next slide, please. Then on the quality system, is there a need for additional quality procedures? And there are examples of the procedures which could be those additional ones, or you can come with a proposal as you think it is relevant and important. Next slide, please. Then there is, for example, a question related to signal detection and risk identification area in work sharing process of monitoring and assessment evaluation, whether there would be a risk in accumulating all tasks in one member state with one reviewer in broader sense, I would say, or would there be left more space for more partners having more strengthened peer review system? Next slide, please. Then whether there should be more details provided in view to establish common triggers for signal detection. Next slide, please. Next slide, please. Regarding the use of terminology, the questions are rather general. Do you agree with what is proposed? Next slide, please. And there is also a chapter on transmission and submission, sorry for typing error, requirements. And the question is, there additionally a need for transitional provisions as regards certain aspects of this implementing measure? What I would like to say here, I know that information on transitional provisions follows in the presentation, so I skip and continue further. Next slide, please. Thank you.
Thanks very much, Dagmar. We have time if people do have any immediate questions for Dagmar Stará from SANCO. Go ahead.
26 of the 27 member states also report to the WHO Drug Monitoring Center, and are there using some terminology and so on. How do you collaborate with that organization?
There is a provision addressing this collaboration in the basic legislation. Unfortunately, I do not know that provision by heart, but for the moment, there was no need identified to put something in the concept paper on implementing measures. But if the common suggestion proposals would come, we would consider, reflect on it.
Maybe just to supplement that, the legal provisions in the regulation state that after centralised reporting to Vigilance, which, as Noel presented first thing, will not happen for a couple of years yet, because we have to further enhance the functionalities of Vigilance. We have to get through an audit of those functionalities, and then there's a decision of the management board to centralise the reporting from companies. After that, all European reported suspected adverse drug reaction reports go from the European Medicines Agency to the WHO, which should significantly facilitate the work of Uppsala Monitoring Centre, because at the moment, although the majority of member states are reporting to Uppsala, sometimes there are delays and it's not universal, whereas with the new system it will be universal. So it's certainly my view that in, say, 5 years' time, we'll have a much better system. And we are having regular teleconferences with WHO so that we can work stepwise towards that. Thank you.
Hi, Nick Sykes from Pfizer, representing FPIA. Could you say anything about the status of other guidance that you're in the process of developing, and in particular the guidance around post-approval efficacy studies?
The guidance of post-approval efficacy studies for the Commission, I can say only that is the role, or there is a may provision which says that the Commission may adopt a delegated act, which is different one from the implementing measures. For the moment, Commission gave clear and strong priority to implementing measures. That's for the Commission side.
So you're saying you're not actually working on that particular measure, that particular guidance at the moment?
For this moment, we have put all effort in implementing measures.
Okay, thanks.
And again, maybe to supplement, as Dagmar pointed out, there are two provisions in the legislation relating to efficacy studies. There is this so-called delegated act that the Commission may adopt. In contrast, there's a shall provision, which says that the European Medicines Agency shall adopt scientific guidance. So we have to do that. We would anticipate going out to public consultation in the spring on some scientific guidance. We know that there's going to be huge interest, particularly from the industry. We know that the borders of this topic, in other words, what's an indication? Are we talking about missing information? How do we define the population? Is it normal conditions of use? Is it slightly outside normal conditions of use? All of these issues are highly contentious. We'll have to have a very thorough public consultation, and I would anticipate the spring for the scientific part of this.
Of course, I would like only to add that it is indeed the matter of priority. You have heard introductory presentation and introduction of Noël Vatillon saying that we are really working hard on prioritization and in putting in our efforts in the issues which are really extremely important from the public health perspective.
So introduce yourself, please.
Peter Devine Roche, representing EBE. Can you explain maybe the next steps and the process? Because we're commenting now on a concept paper. Is this the final format, or how will the eventually the implementing measure look like? Will it be more detailed? Will it be less detailed? Is this? So can you explain a little bit more the next steps in this process?
Yeah, I will tell it as easy as possible. We will now receive comments, contributions. We will have stakeholders meeting. We will have actually now input on the concept paper, which I've explained how it has been prepared, and there is in fact open end to adjust, change, add something depending on the outcome of public consultation, and then of course the document shall be discussed with the member states, and then we will have the final documents.
Dagmar, just because I think it'll be important for the industry, would you anticipate, although, I mean, one can never predict the future in totality, but would you anticipate final adoption next summer, late after next summer? What would be your, what does your crystal ball say?
We are definitely aiming to adopt and publish the document before the new legislation should be operational. That's definitely the goal.